So sorry, just accept me like that. I get my devices are used to a Friday live. They are not used to a Sunday live, and that's why it's like this. I apologize for that. So we'll just go on without wasting time. And today we're going to be talking about the reasons your disciplinary strategy isn't working and what you should do about it. Right. We've been talking about discipline for a very, for some weeks now in this month of July, and we're still going to continue to talk about it because just like I said that discipline is a misconstrued topic. It's a topic that, so many people, not just us, so many people have misconstrued. It has been misunderstood, right? And this is a core topic when it comes to raising children intentionally. And that's why we're still going to be talking about why our disciplinary strategies fail and the things that we can actually do about it, right? So it's something that we already know that discipline is one of the most important topics in parenting, and it is misconstrued, like I have said. So, as we have said before now, that, discipline is structure and systems put in place, right? So, discipline is not punishment like we used to think. Discipline is not punishment like we used to think, right? It is actually systems and structures put in place. So, a lot of adults say things like, my father is very disciplined. My mother is a disciplinarian. However, if we dig deep and ask, what exactly do you mean by your parents being disciplinarian? By your parents being disciplined, they say things that are negative discipline, the things that they do to them, shouting, flogging, yelling, hitting them, verbal abuse and all of those things, right? So we need to first of all know that that is not what discipline is. We've said that a lot of time this month, right? But then there's no we want to talk about discipline without talking about those things, right? So if we ask them, like I said, they're actually going to say the negative things that their parents did to them, right? And that's not discipline, like we already said. So it's not discipline. It's actually irresponsibility with our emotions. You'll find out that a lot of the time when we as parents now, when we do certain things to our children that we are not very proud of, we come back and we are what's the word now? We regret it. We regret it. Then we start thinking about it. Oh my God, why have I done this? What did I do? I could have done better, right? So it is not actually discipline. It is actually us not being responsible with our own emotions. So a lot of parents just, they find themselves in a place whereby they bail out their children, right? What do I mean by bailing their children out? They do not allow children to face the consequences of their action. That's like the real thing. They don't allow children to face the consequences of their action. And because of that, they do not allow them to learn from whatever it is that has happened. Do we get this? Right? So one thing that we need to know as we go on is that, your discipline is something that is, like I said before, that is something that should raise your children to become self-disciplined. If your disciplinary approach is not raising your children to become self-disciplined, then there's a problem to it. So I'm going to give an example, right? So your child has either by mistake, either knowingly spilled water. Let's even say knowingly, right? I'm using this because we will feel that this is something that actually needs us to, to punish our children, right? But it doesn't work. And that's why I'm using intentionally. That child has, as intentional, maybe because the child was angry or something, has intentionally spilled water, right? So what do we do? Because we're angry and we feel that this child is misbehaving, he has done something really wrong and all of those things. Then we beat the child or we yell at the child. Okay, we spank the child. Then what happens? The child continues to cry, and we now clean whatever it is, whatever mess that our child has done. That is actually you bailing out your child. You're not allowing your child to face the consequences of his or her action. So what do? You want to do something that will actually help your child to learn. Something that will help your child to learn. So what exactly are you supposed to do? You're supposed to guide your child to clean that thing. Because if you find yourself in a place whereby you beat your child is crying, then you clean the place, your child has not learned anything through that process. Your child has only learned that, okay, yes, if somebody does something wrong to me, or if somebody does something wrong that I do not like, then all that I need to do is to actually, beat, or is to yell, or is to retaliate. That's just it. You have not taught your child that, okay, yes, if something didn't go your way and you did something maybe out of mistake, or maybe you did it knowingly or unknowingly, then what you need to do is to clean up your mess, is to find a solution to whatever it is that you have done. Instead of just being in a place whereby we spank the child and, we want to move on with whatever it is that we're doing. This is something that we need to know. So, because positive discipline actually impacts that thinking brain of our children. It impacts the thinking brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, while punishment only impacts the emotional brain. So I'm going to break this down. If we find ourselves in a situation whereby we are inflicting pain on our children because they have done something wrong, we feel that it is discipline, but it doesn't work. Why does it not work? Because it impacts the emotional brain of our children. It does not impact the thinking brain. So your child has spilled water, like I gave as an example. You have beaten the child, you have hit the child. The child is not thinking of, okay, what can I do to actually solve this problem? No. The child is now thinking of, okay, mommy has beaten me because this has happened, or daddy has beaten me because this has happened, and I'm just going to cry. I'm just going to have that, I'm just going to start having that very big emotions, right? So that's what happens. So the brain that is actually being impacted is the emotional brain of our children and not the thinking brain of our children, right? So it doesn't work. And like we said, that whatever it is that we want to do to our children, we want to raise them to be self-disciplined. We want them to be able to think through things. We want them to be able to make decisions. So that part of punishing your child, it is not actually going to work, because what it does is contrary to what we want to achieve as parents, right? So discipline is going to create more negative behavior in our children, and it's going to shift the child's focus on avoiding it, right? So I'm going to break this down. You have found yourself in a situation whereby your child is I'm so sorry about that, right? So you have found yourself in a place whereby that child is beginning to see things from the space of, okay, I have made this mistake, and because I have failed or I have made this mistake, I'm going to try as much as possible not to be punished. So I want to find myself in a place whereby I actually, I cover up this mistake so that I do not get punished. So instead of your child to think towards the direction of I needed to quickly attend to my daughter. I apologize. Right. Am I still clear? Am I still audible? Right. So I was explaining the fact that your child is in a situation whereby he has done something, he has made a mistake, or he has even failed in his approach. He has done something wrong. So instead of your child to be in that place whereby they are thinking of how to correct their wrong, how to right their wrong, how to correct their mistakes, but they are thinking towards, okay, I do not want to get punished. I do not want to get punished. What is it that I can do? So it makes children to begin to hide their mistakes. And once a child begins to hide, his or her mistakes, their failures, or, and all other things that they do not want you to know about, what happened? It's going to breed more misbehavior, because what your child will now start doing is to start lying so that they can actually cover up that misbehavior, right? So that they can cover up that misbehavior. So your child is not thinking towards, how can I solve this mistake? How can I, make amendments? How can I do something right? They are just going to be thinking towards, okay, what is it that I need to do to cover up being punished? And that's where we find children lying. So in a bit to actually make children, in a bit to for our children to feel that, okay, yes, you are in charge here, you are disciplining your child, you're actually making them to create more misbehavior, because that is exactly what they are going to be doing. Because whatever it is that you are doing is not impacting the thinking brain of your children, is not helping them for higher order thinking, is not helping them to make decisions. Rather, it is helping them to just cover up whatever thing that they have done. right? So it makes children to move towards the direction of avoiding punishment and not move towards thinking to solve a particular problem. Are we getting it? Right? So, like I've said before, that the first function of the brain of a child is to protect a child from any form of danger. And that is the same thing for everyone, not even a child. The first function of the brain is to first of all see that we are safe from danger. And that is why immediately anything that is, that poses a threat on our well-being, immediately happens. We do not think before we take action. Either we fly or, we run away from the scene or we do something. It is a particular part of our brain that is actually working, which is the amygdala. It is doing its own work. However, if we as parents, if we've constantly put our children in a situation whereby there is fear in our, in our disciplinary approach and all of those things, what it does is that the amygdala is going to be overpowering the prefrontal cortex that is supposed to be thinking. It's going to overpower it. So there's going to be more of the amygdala of your child working than the prefrontal cortex. So for everyone, what happens is that the brain wants to first of all protect you. And that's why we always say that in education, if you find yourself, or if your children are in a place whereby they are being, they are being punished heavily, they are being beaten, maybe because they've not learned something, because they are not able to learn something, they are being beaten for it, then you have taken your children to a wrong place. Because a child will not actually learn in an environment whereby there's a, there's threat to their well-being. And that's why it is so sad when we see when we see even teachers and parents do all of those things. So your child is actually not going to learn, because what the brain of the child is actually doing to that child is protecting that child from any form of harm, any form of danger. Right? So if a child is constantly exposed to punishment, it brings fear, which constantly makes the mammalian brain. The mammalian brain is that part of the brain that is responsible for emotions. It's the emotional part of the brain. It impacts the mammalian brain. That's what happens. Instead of it helping the human brain, which is there for children to think through things and, be able to do things easily. And that's why our disciplinary strategy is not working. So if you constantly see that, and that's why a child who you continue to, beat, yell at, complain, that child is not going to change if you continue like that. Even if that child should change, it's just going to be temporary, just for a particular period of time, just so that child can feel safe. That child can feel, okay, I think I'm safe now. Then that child is going to be walking on eggshells. We're going to get there. So, like I was saying, that it impacts the mammalian brain, which is also known as the emotional brain, that is responsible for, for big emotions such as fear, such as rage, separation, anxiety, and all of those things, right? So, and it ignores that human brain that is responsible for thinking, right? So, when you're in danger, you cannot afford to think. This is something that is applicable to everyone. If you're in danger, you will not be able to think. And that's the same thing. So what do we now do? We now have to put ourselves in a place whereby we train our nervous system to actually be able to think even in chaotic situations. And that's where emotional intelligence comes in. There's nothing in parenting we want to talk about that we will not talk about, we will not talk about emotional intelligence. There's nothing at all. There's nothing we want to talk about, right? This is something that will always occur, that will always come up when we're talking about, raising children and all of that, because it is at the heart of parenting, right? So it is one of the reasons why parents who do not take advantage of the formative years of their children, they struggle in the later years. When you see parents of teenagers come and say things like, this child does not even think, this child does not do this child does not, it is because they have not taken advantage of that formative years of their child's brain to actually help them to think. They have not taken advantage of it, and it's going to be a problem. Now, it's now needs rewiring. It needs them to now start, taking them through a particular process that we must have gone through first before we can actually help our children through that process. So they are definitely going to struggle in the later years, because we have not put them in a situation whereby we have helped their prefrontal cortex to actually think. We have just been in a place whereby we have impacted mostly of their amygdala. And this is something that we really need to think of, right? So a lot of the time, many parents resolve to a fear-based approach of controlling our children, right? So if you do this, this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. We keep using that fear-based approach because our children are curious. They don't understand what it means to be safe. They don't understand anything about safety yet. They are so ambitious, they are curious, and they are fearless. They don't know what exactly safety is. So we want to be in a place whereby we are always instilling fear in them to actually do the things that they are supposed to do, or to not do the things that we do not want them to do. But then, even if it works at that time, it is not something that is going to continue to work because children do not understand that yet. So the truth is that we need to know that so much of fear is going to actually raise our children to, it's not going to help them to develop that thinking part of their brain, and it's going to continue to impact the emotional part of that brain, right? So that's why we now have children who are constantly avoiding mistakes. And this is exactly why our disciplinary strategy is not working. We have children that are constantly, avoiding mistakes. They are constantly avoiding failure. They do not want to try new things, right? We have children that are always walking on eggshells, because they don't want trouble. They don't want this. They do not take initiatives, right? That's it. They do not know how to take initiative because they just want to save. Because that part of their brain that wants them to be safe is the one that is working more than that part of their brain that is supposed to think, right? So what now happens is that as we grow, this is something that affects us as adults now. So it ultimately affects our ability to, to want to try new things. We still have lots of adults that, because of that fear of failure, they cannot try something new. It affects us so much that we are unable to actually carry on a new thing. Like, we want to start a new business, or we want to do something meaningful. We want to continue to work on that, our endeavor to make it big and all of those things. But we constantly have that fear. This is something that I've heard a couple of times, even, with adults. So they say things like, I want to do this, but I have this fear that this thing is not going to work. I am going to fail. But then, if you don't even try, there's a quote that says that if for the fear of failure you fail to try, you have failed. But then it is not our fault. It is because of how we have been raised. And that's why we need to be in a place whereby we change our approach. If we do not change our approaches in raising our children, we are going to make the same mistake, and it's going to continue like that. So we have so many adults that they can't try new things. They can't, go further. They can't do so many things that they are supposed to do just because they already have that fear in them. And research has proven that naturally, human beings only have just two types of fear. Just two types of fear. The first one is the fear of loud noise. And the second one is the fear of heights. That is the natural fear that children have. But then the environment, the upbringing, and every other thing is what is still the other types of fears in us. Are we getting it? So the fear that is natural to human being is just that fear of loud noises and the fear of height. You see, the fear of failure, the fear of every other type of fear that we have is actually something that has been imbibed into us due to our upbringing, due to environments that we were brought up, and all of those things. And this is something that has made a lot of us traumatized. A lot of us. We feel that if we're running late for something, then we need to, because of the fear of losing things, this few days, I've been in a space whereby I see that people are so calm with the way they deal with things, with the way they see things, better than where I came from. Sometimes I just look at them like, really? So they hardly complain. They hardly complain about the things happening around them. But because we have a particular type of way that we have been programmed to see things, We see it as, oh, if this is not happening, then we're constantly living based on fear. I will lose this. If I don't do this, I'll do this. If I don't do this, I'm going to lose this. And we already have that fear in us. And it is something that has traumatized us for real. So the things that are not even threatening, that are not life-threatening to us, we have seen it as life-threatening because that's how we were raised. Even on this, our journey of raising our children, we do certain things because of fear. And that's where, when a child lies, you see it as, this child is lying now. This child is going to steal. This child is going to become a thief. You start thinking fear. Then you not start reacting on those things that you are thinking of, not exactly on what that child has done wrong. You start reacting on those things that child has done. Not on that thing that we think of because of the fear that we already have in us as parents. So we constantly parent from the place of fear, which is something that affects our approaches to actually raising our children. So what are the reasons that your disciplinary strategy isn't working? Number one, I've already said it, because we have seen discipline as punishment and we want to keep punishing our children. We feel we have come to that conclusion that before you can actually help a child to behave well, they have to actually go through that pain of, okay, they've done something wrong. They need to go through pain for them to learn. Yes, that's the word. They need to go through pain before they can actually learn. We have attached learning to pain. We have seen it as, if somebody does not go through pain, then that person is not going to learn. This is something that is also common even in our universities. And that's where you hear people say things like, there's no how. If you want to go for your master's, you want to go for your PhD, you want to do this, you have to suffer. If you don't suffer, then you cannot get what you want to get. We have attributed learning with pain. And this is why our disciplinary strategy isn't working. We have seen, positive discipline as something that, that teaches permissiveness. But it is not if you actually do it in the right light. Right? So positive discipline teaches decision making, while negative discipline does not. So because we are not used to positive discipline, and what we have learned is negative discipline. You have to do this, you have to make a child go through pain, you have to make them feel hurt before they can learn, and all of those things. What it does is that it's not going to help children to actually make decisions. So what now happens? You are in a place whereby you want to correct your child, right? You have used disciplinary approach that is a negative disciplinary approach, right? Your child is unable to think through through that process, because don't forget, like I said from the beginning, you have not impacted the thinking brain. So because of that, because your child have not learned through that process, then your child is unable to make decisions. Are we getting it? Your child is unable to make decisions because your child does not understand whatever it is that has happened. Because you have not impacted the brain of your child in a way that it is actually going to understand it. Right? So it's something we need to know, that the more children lack the ability to make vital life decisions, it's going to be very difficult for them to actually learn. And that's why we see it as something that I have said today, I'm saying it tomorrow, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and this child is not grabbing. It could be so many things attached to it. It is not necessarily, my child is misbehaving. This child is just rebelling. It might not be the same. It might not even be that. But because we have attached it to it, we feel that this child does not just want to listen. So whatever approach that we now want to do, we will not still make the child to learn, because you have not taught the child how to actually make decisions. So life decisions becomes easy when we have raised children with values instead of just rules. I made mention of this, I think, last week or last 2 weeks, when we're talking about raising children who actually thrive. It's not just about, it's not just about, doing things just anyhow. It's actually about helping them to be able to make life decisions. It's actually about putting down values in place that is going to guide our children. We cannot talk about intentional parenting without talking about values, because that is the thing that will actually keep our children growing, like I always say. So the problem that we generally have today is due to how children are raised, because, they are raised to become adults. Because we are not, if we find ourselves in spaces whereby, we want to complain about the government, we want to complain about people around and all of those things, we want to think about it. How exactly are we raising children to become these adults that we have today? That's what we want to start thinking about. Then when we think about it, then we see the lapses, then we can actually come back to start correcting. And I've seen that one of the lapses that we had is actually effective discipline. We have not raised people to, to actually be self-disciplined, to do the things that they are supposed to do, even when no one is watching, even when no one is saying, yes, these are the things because that is what is going to be left of that child when we are no longer there. Right? So another reason this disciplinary strategy is not working is because we are not teaching. We are not teaching. We are not guiding. We are not giving instructions to our children the way we're supposed to give instructions to them. We're just destroying. Yes, we are destroying. Because a lot of the disciplinary approaches that we use is actually destroying our children. Talk of hitting, talk of yelling. I made a video about how yelling actually affects also the thinking brain. It affects the gray matter in the brain. And it does not help children with their ability to think. So what we are doing, whatever it is that we're doing that is contrary to positively disciplining our children, is actually destroying our children. So when you're supposed to be building, what you are doing is that you're actually destroying what you're supposed to be building. So you want to think about all of those things. I said I was going to make a post, maybe, some other time, of the things that you can actually, because if you sit down to reflect, you actually see these things in your upbringing. This is something that we will see. If we are one who reflect, we'll actually see it in our upbringing. It's something we would see. So instead of us building our children to actually put them in a space whereby they are able to think and they are able to use that brain that actually thinks, we're constantly in a place whereby we're using, apart from the fact that we are damaging what is supposed to help them to think, we are not creating a relationship that can help us to become, that can help them to become closer to them so that we can actually be in a place of influencing them. So it's not just about, yes, the brain is something that is very important. But then if we're even saying that we can't see the brain and how it works, okay, let's now talk about what we can see. So if we're constantly in a place whereby you don't have a healthy relationship with your child, in order for you to be able to teach them what discipline is, then what happens is that you do not have that relationship and you're unable to teach them. You're unable to influence them. So you need to know that the yelling, the shouting, the nagging is not building. It is actually destroying. So anytime your disciplinary strategy is not teaching, if it is not guiding, and it is not helping your child to learn something, that strategy will not work. So you want to ask yourself, a lot of the people come and ask me, things like, how can we discipline our children? How can they do this? You need to first of all know that if you are using strategies that are not, that are not helping your child to learn, that is not teaching your child, that is not guiding your child will continue to make those mistakes. Your child will continue to do the things that you do not want them to do. It's furtherly going to increase their misbehavior because they are always finding a place whereby they find themselves in a safe place, in a place whereby they are safe and nothing is going to happen to them, because that is the function of the brain, first of all. So your disciplinary strategy has to teach, it has to guide, it has to be in a place whereby your child is learning one or two things. So which means that before you can say that you want to positively discipline your child, you need to have a high dose of emotional intelligence. You have to be emotionally stable. If you can't master your emotion, if you are still in a place whereby you are blaming your children for your own emotions, then there's something wrong, because you will not be able to discipline your child the way you're supposed to discipline them. Any little thing, any anger from you, any feeling of, not comfortable and all of that, you are going to pour it on your children. So you first of all have to be in a place of emotional intelligence before you can say that, okay, yes, you want to positively discipline your child. You want your child to learn from whatever disciplinary strategy that you are going to be putting in place. So, and that's what emotional intelligence, like I said, is at the heart of parenting. That is what intentional parenting delivers on. So if your emotions are all over the place as a parent, you won't be able to put the right kind of discipline that is effective enough for your child to learn from in place. So you want to check it. If you're asking yourself, how can I discipline my child? How can I discipline my child? First of all, you have to use it in the right sense. Are you talking about disciplining your child, or are you talking about destroying your child? Because if what you are doing is not teaching your child, if it is not guiding your child, there's every possibility that it is destroying your child. Right. So you need to be able to, to gain that stability when it comes to your emotions before you can actually put, positive disciplinary strategies in place. Like I always say that intentional parenting is not for everyone. Yes, that's the truth. It's not for everyone. It is for people who want to raise children who thrive, not just people who want to raise children who survive. Because a lot of the time, the excuses people come and give is that, our parents did not do all of these things and we turned out fine. We turned out okay, excuses like that. But then, like I always say, it is not yes, you can raise children that are going to be okay. But then we need to know that intentional parenting is not for everybody. It's for people who want to actually raise children who thrive and not just children who are going to survive. Yes, there's a big difference between it. There's a big difference, and we must be ready to do the work. The best example I can give is that it's someone who is trying to build a hut and someone who is trying to build, a mansion. Yes, they are both going to build houses, but you will know the quality of house from the resources that they both put in place. We are both going to have houses. So it's the same thing. If I am intentionally raising my children with the skills, and I'm saying that, I want to learn all of these things, it's not easy, but then we want to find ourselves in a place whereby we are better and our children are even better than us, then it takes resources, good resources. So when you're building a hut and when you're building a mansion, yes, you're both building houses. But then you can't compare it because the resources that are going to be used to build a hut, you can't compare it to the resources that are going to be used to, build a mansion. So if we still have people that are still in that place, saying something like, our parents did it to us and we're okay, we want to go and define our level of okayness. We want to ask ourselves, am I really thriving? Am I living a life of purpose, or am I just surviving? Before we want to define that okayness in us. Right. So this is something that is very important. You can't compare a hut. You can't compare it to a mansion. Yes. Can you live in those places? Yes, of course, you can live there. But then you can't compare. You cannot compare it. So intentionally raising a child, intentionally raising your children is raising children who are able to operate on a higher functioning skills. And when we talk about higher functioning skills, it requires that we think about how the brain works and we know whatever it is that we do that impacts it either positively or negatively. This is something that is very important, right? Another reason why your disciplinary strategy is not working is that you're only inflicting pain. That's another reason. You're only inflicting pain. We have spoken about, punishment. Now you're only inflicting pain, not guidance. It will cause your strategy not to work. Your strategy is not going to work if you're constantly in that place where you're inflicting pain. Your disciplinary strategy is not going to work. So it's still going to be coming back in circles. And the circle is not going to be bigger, right? It's not going to be big. Because you're not activating your child's prefrontal cortex, which is responsible to think through a process and learn from it, which makes the child to continue to find learning difficult and eventually make them to keep struggling. So your child is not learning. Don't feel that your child is learning. Your child is not learning. Your child is not learning from you inflicting pain on them. And like I always say, that only if we do not change our perspective of children, we will not be able to get it right. No child was given to us damaged. I will always say this. No child was given to us damaged. Our children were given to us, that newborn with no sin. That's how our children were given to us. They were not given to us damaged. So if we find ourselves in a place whereby we're doing something and it's not working, maybe we still need to gain more knowledge on how to deal with that thing. Maybe. And there is always a way, only if we always find ourselves in a place whereby, okay, yes, I need to continuously learn to make this thing better. And there will always be a way. If we're not having that limiting belief of everyone can actually, we can actually do all of these things and children will still turn out wayward. We can actually do all of these things and children will still turn out irresponsible. It is not true. It is not true. And that's why it is necessary for us to do our best and, tie our camel and then put our trust in Allah. Tie our camel and put our trust in Allah. So you cannot be in a place whereby you are constantly inflicting, even as adults. Let's think about it. If you register for a course now, even if it is online, and the only thing the facilitator does is to verbally abuse you, you will not want to go back to that class. You will not even learn because you will not even listen to that person. If you are the one sponsoring yourself, you will not go again. If you are being sponsored, you can just go for let me go sake so that they will not just say that I'm not serious. It's the same thing. So if you are inflicting pain on a child, we need to first of all stop this double standard of, okay, if an adult is beating an adult, a husband is beating a wife, then it is wrong. It is domestic violence. Then when a child is being beaten, then it is discipline. No, it is not discipline. It is just us, exercising our authority because we have young children who cannot retaliate. That's exactly how it is. If we do not change that perspective, then we find it difficult to continue to raise our children the way we should raise our children. If we do not change that perspective, if we do not stop that double standard of, okay, yes, when this is happening, we're doing this, but when this is happening, then it is right. But when it is happening to children, then it is right. When it is happening to adults, then it is right. Then there's going to be a problem in our approaches. So you're inflicting pain. You're not disciplining. You're not teaching. You're not guiding. So it will not work. It will not work. Another reason why your disciplinary strategy isn't working is that you're only using quick fixes. Yeah, right. Quick fixes is just, okay, let me just do this to get this result immediately. Let me just do this to get this result. And that's why a lot of the time when parents come, and, they come and complain, they come and say things that they want to get, they want to do something that will help them to get immediate results, instant results, and all of those things. It is nothing like that. One has to follow the process. And that's why, inshallah, yes, after tonight, we're going to be opening our slot for registration into the Inner Circle tribe, right? This particular community that we want to start to build is not for everyone. It is not for everyone. It is for people who are ready to do the work, who are able to follow through, because it has to go through a process. I have learned that there's nothing you actually want to see come out beautifully in your endeavors if you don't take it through systems, if you don't take it through structures, it wouldn't work. I'll get there now. I'm going to explain better at the tail end of this course, right? So you're only looking for quick fixes. We're only looking for tips and hacks. And the truth is, the tips and hacks that we always see, we see on our social media handles and all of those things, they are not going to work. I've been there. When I started becoming, intentional, and I had the mindset that, okay, yes, I want to become intentional. I want to start raising my children. And all that I was using was, quick and acts. You see, the intentional parents, the purposeful parents, the curious, things like that. If you keep following the tips and hacks, it will not work. You're just going to be frustrated. Then I had to get myself into an accountability system to actually learn properly what are the things that I need to put in place. And it's been amazing. So we need to find ourselves. We can't use quick fixes. And that's why if you're constantly in a place whereby the only thing that you use is the tips and hacks that are being released by a particular academy or by a particular platform, by a particular email marketing, this and all of those things, you're going to become overwhelmed. You're going to become overwhelmed because there are certain things. Those are the people that will now come back and say that, you see, this intentional parenting thing is not working. It's not true. It's working. But there is more to the tips and hacks that we see. There's more to it. So we need to find ourselves in a place whereby we follow the process. And why we are opening registration for this soon is because we want to give the people the opportunity to pay installmentally. With this, you'll be able, it's going to be easy on you. Then before the end of the year, inshallah, people will be able to, finish up with payments, and, sessions are going to start come first, January 2026. God willing, may Allah spare our lives, right? So I'm not going to bore with too much of that, right? So we usually find quick fixes, and quick fixes are not going to work. Right? Example of those quick fixes are those things that we have experienced. Something has happened. We just want to slap our child just to reset their brain, just to, all those things that would usually make fun of, that our parents were so good at using. Igatu, Igati, Ibaju, Ifonu, and all of those things. They're actually quick fixes. We just want our children to be in that place whereby they're just behaving properly. They're just behaving properly, but it doesn't work that way. Children are not born to just have that brain of doing things perfectly or doing things to our own standard, because of course they are children. Even us as adults, we still make so many mistakes that if we do not forgive ourselves with it, we'll beat ourselves up so hard. So we have to know that it is not just about quick fixes. If you find yourself picking slippers to throw it at your children, to slap your children, to do certain things to them, all that you are doing are quick fixes, and they are not going to work. And these are the things that does not make your disciplinary strategy to work, right? We're already running late, right? So your disciplinary strategy is not working because you're a permissive parent. So just like I have said, that if we're constantly in that place of tips and arms, if we have not, put ourselves in that place of learning, of continuous learning, of, okay, yes, these are the things that you need to do daily, weekly, monthly, for you to actually, first of all, transform yourself as a parent in such a way that you become that model that your child actually needs, there's going to be a problem. So because we've heard, of course, if you are not following through any process, if you're not following through any accountability system, you are always going to be in a place whereby you are getting tips and acts, like I have said. Then you become permissive, because the things you hear is, they have said that we should not beat children again. Oh, they have said that we should not do this. Then when your child does something, you leave the child. When your child does something, you leave the child. When your child is supposed to learn something, you leave the child. And it continues like that. You will become frustrated. Then maybe after a week or two, you come back and start saying, that thing, it does not work. Then you start arguing. It does not work. It is this. It is a lie. You just raise spoiled children. You just do this. You just do that. So it makes us to become permissive parents. And that is not what intentional parenting preaches. That is not what being purposeful with how we raise our children. That is not what it is. It is not about us being permissive. So you haven't been able to distinguish intentionality to permissiveness. The only thing you are taking away from whatever it is that you have heard is that, okay, yes, they said we should not spank. They said we should not yell. They said, but the question is, what are you going to replace all of those things with that is going to work for you? What will you replace it with? If you are not replacing it with something, then you are going to become frustrated, because there's no vacuum in parenting. If you're saying you're not yelling, you're not shouting, you have to do positive things that will actually make your children to learn. So you become frustrated between 1 or 2 weeks if you say that you're not doing those things. So you have to replace those things with things that are going to be beneficial, that will work for you and will also work for your children. So it's not just about being permissive. You do not understand the process of intentionality. That's why you feel like it's just about you being permissive. It's not about you being permissive. It's a process that requires your effort, and it's actually tougher. Yes, it's tougher. It's more of work, but then we'll see the result. Remember that it doesn't take learning any skill to eat your children. Of course, if I just say, just think about it, it does not take any skill at all. It does not take any, you need to get 15 naira pancake or whatever it is that you're using to do the job. It does not take anything. Some don't even need to go far and buy pancake. Their slippers and their shoes is enough to do this area that Yoruba will call it for your children. It doesn't take any skill. But then if you actually want to be intentional, it is tougher. It is more work. So it is not quick fixes, like I said from the beginning, because discipline is a whole lot. I like to give it that simple definition of doing the things that you do not feel like doing. Even, doing the things that you're supposed to do, even if you do not feel like doing it. So it takes lots of work. It takes you to learn so many skills. It takes you to learn communication skills. It takes you to be resilient. It takes you to have emotional intelligence. So when you want to do all of those things, of course, who cannot raise their? There's no one that can. There's no one. There is no one at all. If you teach, even if there's someone that does not know how to do it, if you teach the person today and tomorrow how to raise their voices, they will definitely raise their voice. Of course. So it doesn't take any skill at all. But when you actually be in that place of intentionality, it takes a lot of skills. It takes a lot of learning and relearning. It takes building resilience. It takes being consistent. It's not easy to be consistent with something. It takes consistency. It takes emotional stability. It takes having communication skills. So think about it. You cannot go as far as learning all of those things just because you want your children to be able to learn those things from you. You want to model it for your children. Then you now come out and say that no matter what you do, your children are going to turn out anyway. It's not true, because you have tailed your camel and you're putting your trust in Allah. So another reason why your disciplinary strategy is not working is because you're always in that place of criticizing and condemning. You're always criticizing and condemning. And it is something that we already know, that all of these things does not just stay in childhood. It goes with children into adulthood. And that's why we have children who second guess themselves. We have children who do not have confidence in themselves. We have children that have poor self-esteem because of the things that we have constantly said to them, because of the criticism that we have constantly given to them, because of the condemnation that have always come to them through us. And like I always say that, you see, the first 10 years of our children, we are the greatest influencers in their lives, only if we can use that thing well enough. So you're constantly criticizing and condemning. You're not teaching and you're not guiding. Like I will say that teaching is different from correction. Teaching is different from correction. Let me use a maths, topic, for example. You have just come as a maths teacher and you have given your children, let's even say that a formative test, something like that, something that takes children into whatever it is that you want to teach them. Okay, try this. Let's see the knowledge that you have there. And that child has done it. And you come back, you're not coming back with the intention of teaching. You're coming with the intention of correcting. That child has not learned. It's not as if that child has learned, then that child made mistakes, then you're correcting. No. You're only correcting that child from something they have not even learned from, something that they don't even know. So if you're constantly in a place whereby you're only seeing what your child is not doing well, you're constantly criticizing your child, you're constantly condemning your child, all of these things in your child is going to be affected. Their self-worth, their self-esteem, and, the way they value themselves. It's all going to be affected. So if you're constantly in that place whereby you tell your children there's nothing you can do well, we say these things subtly, just like we were being told. All of those things are actually, there's a way that it affects our children, that they absorb it. And this is something that we have constantly seen, that the way we speak to our children becomes their inner voice. That is what they believe. Because we are the most the influencers in their lives. That is what they actually believe. So you need to take yourself away from the place whereby you start, even for us as individuals. So I'm not going to go deep down into this because, that's not our main topic. But we need to know that even we ourselves, we need to know that the things that we see into ourselves, they actually manifest. Yes, they actually manifest. There's a way that, you start seeing it when you say it to yourself. It's the same thing for your children. So if you focus your attention on the positive ones grow. This is something that, I've always learned. But then when I went through my course of becoming a result coach and all of that, I got a deeper understanding of how whatever it is that you pay attention to grows. So it is what you pay attention to, either positive or negative. That is what is going to grow. It's the same thing for your children. So if you're constantly in that place of criticizing, condemning, never seeing the good things that your children do, you constantly see the wrong thing, because that's what you continue to do. It's the same thing. So you don't want to be in a place of criticism, even if your child should, repeatedly do. You want to look for that one thing. You want to look for that one thing that they have done wonderfully well, that they have done beautifully, and you want to talk about it. Because you want that thing to grow more. So your discipline strategies will not work if you're always criticizing, because criticism, we even, like I said, we modify it and say constructive criticism. No, it's better for us to call it constructive feedback. So we need to stop using that word of criticism. Nobody wants to be criticized. Nobody. Think about it. Nobody, even us as human beings, if we sit down and reflect, just like we feel all of these things when we are criticized, when we are condemned, that's the same way our children, that's the same way they feel it. So your disciplinary strategy will not work if you're always in the place of criticism, which is what we were used to while growing up. We don't want to pass the baton to our children. Another reason is because you are being abusive. you are being abusive to your children. If there's something you do not like people do to you, especially people who love you or who you feel loves you, if there's something you do not want them to do to you, don't do it to your children. Don't do it to your children. If you don't want, if anybody says something to you and you feel that, okay, yes, this thing made me feel bad and, I'm not feeling too good about what this person has said, don't say the same thing to your children. Don't verbally abuse your children. The same way you will feel when somebody verbally abuses you is the same way your children will feel. They are not less of a human. They are human beings too. And they understand. They are not just children. They are not just kids. They understand. They have feelings. So your disciplinary strategy will not work if you're constantly in that place whereby you verbally abuse your children. This is something that is common and we have seen it as normal, but then it is not normal. So we are constantly in that place where we say, we use foul language or denieni, this. You are verbally abusing the children. And we do not gain respect through all of those things. Another thing is that you're constantly assuming. You are assuming. We assume so much in parenting. We assume a lot that our assumptions has made us all to neglect discipline, and we have all focused on punishment. We assume so much. We assume that our children should know. But then no, they will not know except somebody takes time to teach them, or except they learn in a wrong way from somewhere else. They will not learn like that. We cannot constantly be in a place whereby we assume that this child should know. We assume that this child should know. And that's why, myself and Love Wellness, we design something about safety. A lot of the time we come, and we tell our children something like, don't you know? Are you not supposed to know that when fire is burning, it is water you are supposed to pour? They don't know unless you take your time to teach them. If you've not enrolled for that class, you need to go back there. It's free. It's not even a class. It's a free webinar. So I don't know why you shouldn't enroll. I don't know why you shouldn't be there. It's just a 2-day course. Love Wellness is going to be talking about, natural remedies, for children and their parents and all of those things. And I'm going to be talking about safety in our home environment. You should be in that class and invite other people to also join us in that class, right? So let's stop assuming that our children knows. Assumption is the lowest form of knowledge. I assume no. Our children do not know. We need to constantly be in a place of teaching them, which is what discipline is. But we have been made to neglect discipline and focus on what discipline is not. This is something that we need to look into. If we continue like that, our disciplinary strategy is not going to work. If we're always, setting traps for our children, like a mentor will say that our children are not animals, they are human beings. So we should stop setting traps for them. Let us come out straight and let them know what is it that is expected for them. And let us always think of, are my expectations not too high for this child? That is the only time we can be in the place of actually teaching our children. So we need to make our expectations something that is realistic for our children. This is something that is important. We need to stop assuming. Right. A lot of the time, when we pray, this is something that I experienced while I was growing up. When my parents, when my mother most especially, when she prays, they say things like, we want your own life to be better than our own. No matter no matter what we acquire, no matter what we achieve, you should do better for. That is what every generation wants. But then every generation wants this, but we can't achieve this by doing the exact same thing that our parents did. We can't. We have to improve. So every generation wants the generation that's coming after them, they want them to be better. So if you think that all that you have to do is to do the same thing, is to replicate the same thing that your own parents did, then your children are going to be better. It's a lie. It's not going to work that way. So it means that we have to take it like this. Look at it. What worked during their own time for us? Okay, yes, let's take it. What are those things that didn't work? Let us extract it and replace it with something beautiful. When we're able to do this, then we're going to be able to raise children who are also going to think the same way, extract whatever it is that is not so good in our parenting journey, and fit in good things that are going to benefit, their own children also. That's how we can be better. But if we think of just replicating what our own parent has done for us, then we're going to be in a mess, because yes, they were not perfect. We're not also perfect too, but we are people of Ihsan. We have to constantly move towards excellence. And that's what it is. We have to constantly move towards excellence. It is not about perfection. It's about trying to move towards excellence. That's exactly what it is. So we can't pour new wine into old wine skins. We can't. There are things that we need to change. We need to evolve. We need to become better before we can actually be in that place. Right? So we have spoken about the things that do not make, our strategies work. So we're quickly going to talk about the things that we need to start doing so that whatever disciplinary strategy that we now start putting in place is going to work. First of all, we need to redefine what discipline is. This is something that we've spoken about so much. So we need to redefine what discipline is. We need to start building a healthy relationship between ourselves and our children. We need to start building a healthy relationship. There's nothing like, a lot of the time we feel that, or while we're growing up, we feel that building a relationship with our children helps. It doesn't help them to respect us, or it puts us in a place whereby, they don't respect us. Let me put it that way. But it's not true. It is absolutely not true. So you need to start building a healthy relationship between yourself and your children. It's not just about rules. Rules without relationship with your children will cause them to rebel. They'll just rebel. You don't have a relationship with somebody. You just want to give that person rules. Do this, do this, do. Think about it. If you have bosses in your place of work, and that person does not even have an iota of relationship with you, the only thing the person does is give rules, talk about this, how the organization is going to move forward. Nothing at all. Not even a smile. Not even times that we joke around. No, it's not going to work that way. So it's going to cause people to rebel because they will feel controlled, and no human being, no matter how little they are, wants to be controlled. No matter how little a child is, no human being wants to be controlled. So if you're constantly in that place where the only thing you dish out is rules without relationship, it's going to lead to rebellion because children are going to see it as a form of control. And that's why in our accountability system, one thing that we're going to be doing is that we're going to have daily connection and discipline tools. Daily, inshallah. We're going to have daily connection and discipline tools for parents to do that helps them to build healthy relationship with their children. This is something that we're looking towards, and I hope and pray that it's going to turn out beautifully. Right. So we want to be in a place whereby we build healthy connection with our children. This is something that is very important. Another thing is that you need to create an avenue of trust and respect, not fear and control. I'm going to say that again, and our appreciative song can help me put that in the comment section, even if it is just this one before we end this session, because we're gradually coming to an end and I've not received any message at all today. Right. You need to create an avenue of trust and respect, not fear and control. Authority is trust and respect, not fear and control. If you want to say that you have an authority over a set of people, it is your ability to influence them. And you will only be able to influence them when they respect you and when they trust you. A lot of the time we hear in our Yoruba land, we hear people say things like, that's not what children need. A child does not need oniberu. A child just needs someone who they are going to respect. Because as time goes on and the child also grows into an adult, the only person that child is going to listen to is the person that they respect, not the person they fear. Think about it. If you were once in that place whereby you had that fear for your parents, you feared them so much, think about it. That fear is no longer there again. Even if you are listening to them, if you are doing the things they want, you're just doing it for the sake of Allah. You are doing it for the sake of Allah. Like, let's just do our own for the sake of Allah. It is not because that fear is still there. It is not, due to the ability to control you. So authority is trust and respect. If you constantly find if you are able to put yourself in a place whereby your children trust you, forget it. There's going to be respect. Trust is one of the biggest currency of trade when it comes to parenting. Yes, thank you so much. Trust is one thing that is very important when it comes to raising your children. It is the biggest currency of trade in parenting. So you need to build that avenue of trust and respect. But then you have to do the work. Yes, you really have to do the work. Right? So be in a place of trust and respect, not in a place of fear and control in the lives of your children. Then you better be in a place to influence them. You see, there's a level of trust and there's a level of influence you have that your children will just naturally want to please you. Oh my God, this is something that I have experienced it. I am experiencing it. I have experienced the other side of it when I had my foster daughter with me. So I can tell you verbatim, I can tell you for a fact what this is. When I was still doing things out of ignorance that time, I was only controlling my foster daughter, and it didn't yield me anything. If you're in a place of influence in the lives of your children, they will naturally want to please you. They will naturally want to, they will naturally want to please you. That's the word. So you don't have to say things 100 times before they listen to you, because you have a healthy relationship that has breed, trust and respect from them. So you want to be in that space, right? Create structure that works. We're talking about structure. Create structure that works. As little as my children are, they understand what it means. They understand what it means. You cannot see my children on the screen. Their screen time is in the evening. But then you can't see them on the screen without having done the things that they are supposed to do. Their homework, their book review, cleaning the plates in the kitchen. You will not meet them in that space as little as they had. The eldest is 7. So if you are in a place whereby you are taking the cable of your television, you are taking it out because you don't want your children to watch television, you have not disciplined those children. Because discipline must raise your children to become self-disciplined. If you're constantly in that place whereby you need to keep the cord, you need to take PS4 out, you need to take, the football, keep it, so that your children will not play it. You have not disciplined them. The only time you say that you have disciplined your children is that they have access to that thing that they want to play with, but they know that it is not time to play with it. You have to build structure. You have to build structure. This is one thing we are going to be helping parents build in our accountability system, God willing. And I am opening this up because I want parents to be in the place whereby the parent is so easy for them. It's so easy for them. If you're actually into this, from now till December is a very long time for you to plan around it, right? So you want to put it into mind, right? This is the only way to create any successful endeavor. Creating structures. I like to use our religion as a perfect example. That look at how perfect Allah is. Look at how perfectly He has created us. Look at the structure that He has put in place when it comes to serving Him. When it comes to our religion, He based Islam on 5 pillars. He based Islam. He didn't just say, just go and serve me. He didn't just say, go and serve me the way you want to serve me. He created a structure that is going to work for us. He created a structure that we can follow, and when we follow it the way we should follow it, we will know that, yes, I'm serving Allah. He put it in a place where you can imagine if He has just said, pray 5 times daily without time. You can imagine if He had just said, just go and serve me the way you can. There's going to be chaos. We will not even be serious with it. That's how structure is. Imagine the best of the best. He has created structure. We have a curriculum for it, and that's the same thing. We're going to be creating a curriculum for parents who are ready to actually take this to another level, right? Inshallah. So you want to be in this space. You want to be the pioneer of this, right? Of the LLP inner tribe, inshallah. So this is something that is very, very important, right? You need to create structure that work as little as things that your children will start to do when they are very young. Let it be a part of them. Let them continue to have it, not just because mommy said so, because that is the right thing to do. The next thing is that you want to be consistent with the structure that you have put in place. I spoke about consistency in the beginning. You have to be consistent. You want to be in a place of being consistent with whatever it is that you have put in place, because if you are not consistent, your children are not going to even see you as a serious person. You are saying that the time for to read book is this particular time, and your children do it today, they didn't do it tomorrow, including you. You have a time whereby, okay, yes, you say that this time is for us to read, and you are not consistent with it because, of course, you're a mother. You have to be consistent with whatever thing that you have put in place, right? Be consistent with it, right? This is what is going to make that structure to be standard. You can imagine if you are somebody who prays a lot today, doesn't pray tomorrow. We're not even going to see you as a serious person. So you want to be consistent with whatever structure that you have put in place, right? And the last thing for today, we have so many more, but the last thing for today is that you need to work on your emotions. You need to work on your emotions. If you're always everywhere, if you're always in that place, hey, our parent did it, they yelled, they shouted, they beat us, we did not die, we did not do this. You're deceiving yourself. You will not get your results. Yes, get the results that you want to get, right? Like I said, you cannot pour new wine into old skin, right? You cannot pour new wine into old wine skin, right? So this is something that is very important. And like I said, we are unofficially, yes, this is unofficially, we are unofficially launching LLP Inner Tribe, right? We understand that for anything to succeed, for anything to work, it needs to pass through a well-defined, structure, a well laid down structure that is guided by a curriculum, and registration is now open unofficially, like I said. So these are the first set of people that are listening. The first set of people that are hearing about it are those that are listening to me right now, right? So it is now opening. We are opening this registration. Yes, it is early. It is till July, and this accountability system starts in January. But we're doing this so that there's going to be ease of payment for those who want to join us, right? So registration is open, and is going to help you to pay instrumentally. If you just want to book your slot, you can book your slot with just 5,000 naira. The accountability system is 50,000 naira per year. It's definitely going to come with a lot. I'm so happy. I'm so excited bringing this together, because this is a dream come true for me to be able to hold the hands of parents and take them through this journey of intentional parents. Not a journey that only helps, their children to thrive, but a journey that helps them to thrive even before their children start to thrive. Yes, or they thrive together. Let me put it that way. This is something that is open for parents, and parents will be intending parents, right? So if you're an intending parent, you can be a part of this. If you're a parent already, this is originally made for you, right? So this is something that is important. Like I said, I'm so excited bringing this together, and I hope that people are going to take advantage of this, and you also join me so you do not miss. It's going to be coming with, of course, inshallah, daily connection tools. Is going to be coming with daily connection or discipline tools. It's going to be coming with weekly webinars. It's going to be coming with check-ins. It's going to be coming with a lot of, accountability, activities put in place just to hold your hand through this process. And I hope that people are going to, turn out and be a part of this, be the pioneering, participant of this, inshallah, right? Be the pioneering participant of LLP Inner Tribe, right? So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited. I'm so happy really to see people join me when it is not a Friday. We know that our usual time is, day is Friday, but then we couldn't hold this and we rescheduled to Sunday, and still people came through. Thank you so much for joining me on today's session. Don't forget to screenshot any part of this session. Talk about anything that got to you in this session. Share it with every other people. Share it on your WhatsApp status. Let people know that you belong to a place whereby you constantly learn about raising children and becoming a better version of yourself. And this is something that I'm going to really appreciate, right? Let them know that you are in a space whereby you continue to learn, right? So thank you so much once again for joining me today. See you again, not on Sunday, but on Friday, inshallah. May Allah spare our lives, and may Allah protect us till then. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekdays. Yes, because yes, it's the end, it's the beginning of a new week, right? Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.